right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Tuesday morning. Have you ever heard of a store called Abraham and Strauss, Robin? Does that ring a bell to you?
Nope.
I don't know if it was a New York store or not, but when I was a kid, I went to a store called Abraham and Strauss with my friend Bobby Coleman. He was going to buy his father a tie for Father's Day. We were just kids, you know. And the sales lady said to him, "Is your father conservative or liberal?" And Bobby said, "Well, my father is liberal, but his clothing is conservative." And so Bobby bought the tie.
Oh,
and later on I said to him, what did that even mean? I didn't even know what that meant, you know? And so basically he said to me that, well, a conservative dresses like my dad, but the conservative thinker thinks that you should have a toll booth on every bridge, and a liberal thinker thinks that everybody in the city should pay for the bridge and there should be no toll when you cross. That was my lesson in liberalism and conservatism. Well, that might have been true back then. This got a whole different meaning now. And if you do a talk show, you're well aware of the differences between liberal and conservative, not just fiscally, but socially and every other way. And I believe that those two labels are changing even as we speak. It seems like every time you turn around, there's a new meaning or a new nuance to those meanings. Mark Lilla has written a book. It's called The Once and Future Liberal. Mark is a professor of the humanities at Columbia University, which is where Bobby Coleman went to school, by the way.
Oh,
Just so I give you a little credentials.
Okay.
Mark is a prize-winning essayist for the New York Review of Books, among other publications. And again, the book is called The Once and Future Liberal. After Identity Politics, it says here. Gosh, I'm looking forward to this one. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for that story, which I'm not going to steal from you.
Well, it's a true story. It was. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm from New York, and I'm old enough to remember Abraham and Strauss.
Yeah. This was Roosevelt Field on Long Island, by the way, if you want to know where it was. So yeah, do you think it's changed? Do you think the label has changed in not just well, in clothing it's probably the same, but I mean in politics.
Yeah, well, I think the word liberal still has some meaning, but the term conservative no longer refers to many people. I mean, if by conservative you mean someone who is skeptical about what government can do, believes in sort of what they call fictional family values, think that social change is natural but has to be managed, and one should be fiscally conservative. Those sorts of people don't exist much anymore. Instead, the Republican Party has been taken over by fanatics, really, and who have no idea what they want to build and what they want to do, only what they want to destroy. And that's been the case for pretty much the past 2 decades, I think, and it's come to a head now with Trump.
Well, give me an example of that. Where's an example of where they don't know what to build?
Well, the attack on Obamacare, right? They had no idea what they wanted to replace it with. They just knew they wanted to destroy it. Okay. Now,
are you making conservatism synonymous with republicanism?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that there are few true conservatives left anymore in the Republican Party. Rather, they're a kind of reactionary party that simply wants to destroy what government does and doesn't want to think constructively about what our social problems are and how we can address them, though in a conservative way.
So the conservative view, without being too political, the conservative view of healthcare would be that you have to pay for your own and government shouldn't be subsidizing anybody's healthcare. That's the conservative view. But I would say that's the far conservative view, not necessarily everybody who considers themselves conservative. Because I'm sure plenty of people who do consider themselves conservative feel that there has to be exceptions. There's always going to be somebody who needs medical care, whether they have money or not.
Well, right. In fact, no conservative actually believes that because they all believe in Medicare. right?
Good point. That's a good point, yeah.
And if you believe in Medicare, you believe that people deserve insurance. I just see no reason why we have to limit it to the elderly.
So the book is called The Once and Future Liberals. So talk to me about liberals and how the once part of this, the former Bobby Coleman's dad. Yeah, how is his counterpart different today?
Well, liberalism really from the New Deal up until the 70s offered a unifying vision of what we could do as citizens by banding together. It was based on two fundamental principles: solidarity and equal protection under the law. And at least in principle, not always in practice, it was about enfranchising people as citizens. So it was meant to address every American, no matter what their background was, but also was meant to address problems that different groups experienced. What happened after Reagan came to power, with really an anti-political message of the sort that we were just talking about, is that liberals should have offered a political vision, a revised political vision of what they wanted to do for the entire country, and instead got focused on the divisive politics of identity and social movements, and threw doubt on the very word we, asking, well, who is we? We're nothing but groups. Yeah. And that kind of divisiveness and, frankly, self-centeredness has made it very difficult for Democrats and liberals and progressives more generally to articulate a vision of where they would like to take the country. No one really understands what the Democratic Party stands for right now.
Do you know, so again, just to ask the same question, but in the opposite way, is liberalism synonymous with being Democrat?
I think pretty much it is now, because we don't have anywhere else for them to go, and it's not as if the party has been taken over by some other group, as has happened on the right. There is a tension between liberals and progressives right now. Progressives, focus almost exclusively, I think, on economic issues and see everything through the lens of class, and I think we need that right now. That liberals have not always paid attention to that.
Again, going back to when I was a kid, I had some friends who were their parents were Democrats, so they would be Democrat, of course, in those years before we develop our own identity. But they were also very religious. And now people seem to think religiousness is only on the right. And I know some people right here that are older than me that are Democrats that go to Robbins Church, go to the churches in the area. How did that become? I think that's a misnomer, though. What do you think?
I think you put your finger on a real problem, and it's an excellent illustration of what I'm talking about, is that once you think of yourself as identity groups, then you're not able to address, sort of larger groups where it has nothing to do with identity. 1 out of every 4 Americans considers himself or herself an evangelical. And that's not one of the groups that the Democratic Party tries to talk to, but it's a quarter of the country. I was brought up in a very Catholic family, and my grandparents had a picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on the wall near the side door. And it was taken for granted that you were a Democrat, a Catholic Democrat. That's what Catholics were.
Yeah.
But the party has found it very hard. It's very secular and educated, and is uncomfortable with religion.
The book is called The Once and Future Liberal After Identity Politics. It's written by our guest, Mark Lilla, and I do have a copy of the book. If you call me, I will give it to you and leave it on the desk here. Mark, do you have a website for the book?
Yes, but you can just look at my website, which is just marklilla.com.
marklilla.com. Okay, excellent. And I'm guessing it's wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc.?
That's right, and it's very small, so it's excellent for a Christmas stocking.
It is. It's a good read too. Believe me.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It's a point of conversation that I engage in a lot with listeners, and it always seems to be an argument. And I'm so glad this conversation didn't end up as an argument. It's much more better this way. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.
The very best in quality is Captain T's Upholstery.
Hey, this is Dan. Let me ask you a few questions. Does your boat look better with the cover on? Has your car's interior seen its better days? Stop using a towel to cover up those rips in the golf cart. Isn't it about time you had it restored to better than new with a custom upholstery from Captain T? Captain T's Upholstery has been right here in Ocala for nearly 20 years, so they know how to make your ride one of a kind. Whether you want to take that classic ride back to a factory look or put your favorite sports team front and center, Captain T's Upholstery is who to call.